Good morning. Welcome to River Ridge. So as you just saw, our Dollar Club is Royal Family Kids Camp. And I have two foster kids, and we came across Royal Family Kids Camp, and our kids went there this past summer, and it is absolutely amazing. It was the best week of their lives. And so anyway, that's the Dollar Club reveal, we're doing things a little bit differently this morning. But I would encourage you to consider being a volunteer for Royal Family Kids Camp. We can put the slide up there and the dates and so forth for that. And really, they need all kinds of different volunteers to do that in terms of bringing supplies. They have counselors that are there all day. They have overnight counselors. They have just evening counselors. I think it's something like a 5 staff to 1 kid ratio or something like that. But the more volunteers they have like us, the more kids that they can take at the camp. So encourage you to check that out. It's for the children, Putnam.com. All the information is there. So anyway, super, I can't say enough about that ministry, and just thrilled that we as a church got to be behind that financially. It's awesome. So this morning, we're beginning a new sermon series, and it's called Family. And so over the next 5 weeks, today and the next 4 weeks, we're going to talk about family and family dynamics and relationships. And we're going to kind of talk about it from a bunch of different angles. We'll take a week and talk about singleness, take a couple weeks and talk about marriage, take a week and talk about parenting. But today, as you can see, the message looks a little bit different. And we're going to talk about foster and adoption and what those families look like. And so I want to start by sharing a couple statistics with you. So in the state of West Virginia, there are approximately 6,100 children in foster care. And by comparison, that is the highest per capita rate in the United States, is here in West Virginia. Another statistic, West Virginia has the highest removal rate of any state in the country. So 13 out of 1,000 kids are removed from their homes because of abuse or neglect in the home. By comparison, the average of other states is 3 in 1,000. So we're 4 times higher per capita. And we're in first place. Second place is actually almost half as much, is 7.4 per 1,000, and that's Alaska. So I just share that with you because the need is great. And a lot of the need, and you'll hear this a little bit through the stories, is created because of the substance abuse problems that we have in West Virginia. And with one exception, every single kid that's come through our home has been tied to drug abuse in their homes. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some time and talk to each of these folks, and they each share a little bit different perspective on foster care and why they got involved and so forth. And then at the end, I'm going to give you some action steps to take, because what we're talking about this morning, it may not feel like a typical sermon where we open up the Bible and go through it, but I tell you that this morning's message is incredibly biblical, that you open up the scriptures and God says, care for the least and the lost. God says, care for the children. And God says, practice justice. God says, take care of the orphans. And this is what we are called to do as a church. So we're going to start with some brief introductions. I'm going to introduce my family first. So this is my family. So this is from Easter. And so we've got the 3 taller ones are my 4 children, and then a son-in-law. And then the 2 littles on the right are Hunter and Willow, and they are 8 and 10. And sometimes when you see foster pictures, you see like little smiley faces or blurred faces. It's because there's concern about being on social media and parents finding where their kids are, although their mom knows exactly where they are because she actually got to attend here at River Ridge when these 2 kids were baptized. So anyway, but those are our kids. And then we've had a total of a total of 10 different kids in our care. They've stayed with us for any length of time. We had 1 boy that was there for 4 days, and then 4 sisters who were there for 2 nights. So everything's a story, but not for this morning. So anyway, just want to introduce my family to you, and then we'll go down the row, and we've got a picture for each family and introduce your families.
Okay, I am Erica Ward. Ty and I have been married for like 17 years. Madeline's 15 tomorrow. Michael, he is 11, Millie is 5, and Maggie is 3. We have fostered a total of, I think, 14 kids. We've also done respite for multiple other ones, and then Millie and Maggie never left once they were fostered.
My name's Charlie Gall. My parents are Amber and Justin. I'm 15 years old. My sister is 14, I think. My sister Sophie is 14. My brother Michael is 11. My other brother Zach is 8, and my sister Sunny is 3.
And the youngest 3 are fostered and then adopted.
Yes.
Okay. Fully Gall functional with their. By the way, when you come to the Gall family and you become part of the family, you get a pair of Crocs, right? That's the tradition. So that's awesome.
Best shoe.
All right.
Hi, I'm Allison Mace, and this is my husband Adam and our crazy crew. We have our oldest son Ethan, who's 10, our oldest daughter Peyton, who's 9, our youngest son TJ, who's 5, and our youngest daughter Willow, who's getting ready to turn 3. And we've been fostering since 2017. I don't actually know the number of kids total that we've had in and out of our household, but we've been fostering and doing respite for since 2017, but we did just recently close our home.
And so Peyton is biological, and the other.
Yes, so Peyton is our biological daughter, and the other 3 are all adopted.
Awesome. All right.
Good morning. I'm Rich Mays. This is my wife, Wendy, and my stepson, Saxon, and adopted daughter, Alani. I have 3 adult children that aren't pictured here. Sarah, Richie, and Tyler, 28, 27 and 23, something like that. And then Wendy has an adult son that's in Louisiana. He's, I think, 23. And Alani, we just recently adopted her in December from fostering.
Good. So you see, we kind of have a wide variety of different families up here. But Erica, I'm going to start with you. Tell us what led your family to enter into foster care and then eventually adoption.
So Ty and I got married when we were really young. We had sort of talked about foster and adopting, but then we had Madeline when we were babies ourselves. So that kind of got put on the back burner. Like 12 years ago, I started working as a nurse on the mother-baby unit, and I saw the need for foster parents due to drug abuse and neglect. Many of our babies were placed into foster care because there wasn't an appropriate family member to take care of them. So I would come home and talk to Ty about it. And then we had Michael, and then we kind of continued to talk about it but not do anything about it. And then one day we just decided to do it in 2018, and then 6 months later we had our first placement. As far as adoption goes, that wasn't really what we wanted to do. Millie had a lot of medical issues as an infant. It became very evident that her family wasn't going to be able to care for her and that she would need to be adopted. We did not trust anybody else to take care of her needs, so we just kind of got thrown into adopting her, which has been a treat. And then Maggie, she needed to be adopted. We had to pray about that a little bit more. But once you adopt one, why not just keep adopting?
And so what are the, when you foster, you kind of give parameters to the ages or types of children that you will or won't take, kind of thing. So what have been the parameters for you all with all the kids that have come through your home?
We have only fostered 0 to 5-year-olds. Right now we can only do 0 to 2-year-olds because we live in a really small house. So our bedroom is their bedroom.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, did you say yes to every child that you were asked to take, or were there some that you said no to?
No, we've said no probably more times than we've said yes. We always ask a lot of questions, and we only take kids based on the needs of the kids in our house and the needs of the kids coming in.
Yep, great. So you started out as foster only and then transitioned and said, hey, we're going to adopt. Like, tell us, how did that transition happen, or why did you make that transition?
Well, for Millie, it was really because she had a lot of medical needs, and I'm a nurse, and we had already done CPR on her at home, so why not just make sure that we could supply all of her needs? We've sent a lot of other kids to adoptive homes because we didn't feel like that was our calling to keep all of the kids. But for Maggie, when you bring an infant into your home, you're all they know. Both of the girls never knew another mom and dad. They only had us. And we felt like it was our obligation to adopt them.
Yeah. And so what's been the interaction, not the interaction, but like as far as your other kids, like has that been a blessing for them or difficulty for them, or how have you seen them grow, or what does that look like?
I think it's been mostly a blessing. They were one of the reasons we didn't want to foster originally. We didn't want to expose our kids to, whatever. But I think it's actually helped them grow. I feel like all 4 of our kids are more empathetic than a lot of people's kids. They've also been exposed to things that they might not have been exposed to otherwise, and we've been able to talk to them and help them to understand that people who seem unlovable, they still deserve love and second chances.
Yeah. And I think you said Maddie has kind of befriended some foster kids at school. Is that right?
Yeah, Madeline started high school this year. She's been homeschooled her whole life, but she says that she has some kids that she's friends with that are in foster care, and she's probably able to be a little more empathetic to their situations than other kids are.
Yep, that's awesome. All right, Charlie, let's move to you, all right? Charlie's mom and dad, Amber and Justin, where'd that come from? Amber and Justin have really been leading the way in so many ways here at River Ridge in terms of foster and adoption and so forth. And so, Charlie, how did you feel when they first said, "Hey, we're thinking about adoption, or we're thinking about foster care, we're going to take somebody in"? What was your reaction to that?
When they first suggested it, I was ecstatic. I was super excited. I was also pretty young. I was like 8 or 9, so I didn't really process it any other way.
Okay.
But it was, we were me and Sophie were super excited. And my parents were really great about asking if this is what we wanted to do, right? So, and we were all for it.
Okay. And so you have the 3 that were fostered and now are adopted. Along the way, you've had some other kids come through your home as well. Mm-hmm. When you get a call from the agency saying, hey, we have a child, do you all have sort of like a family powwow, like, hey, do we want to do this? Or did they kind of say, hey, somebody's coming this afternoon, get used to it? How does that work?
We always talk about it first.
Okay.
It's really great. Yeah.
Okay, good. And what would you say, and sort of a two-half question, but what would you say have been some of the best kind of blessings about being a part of a foster family?
There's been a couple. First of all, just like my siblings, having them, I love them. So, yeah, that's the obvious one. But I've seen one of the biggest ones have been our community coming around us and really helping us through situations. I think it's easier to see that. Seeing kids become part of a family and heal, and go back to their family when their family is ready. That's a big one. I think it does make you a more empathetic person.
Yeah. And what would you say has been the hardest thing about being a part of a foster adopt family?
First of all, just the heartache when it comes to hearing these kids' stories, hearing where they come from. That's always been really hard. Part of it, the system can sometimes feel pretty unprofessional. We had one case where it wasn't handled correctly, and it left me with a lot of resentment and even hatred sometimes for the system and even a couple people in it. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't healthy.
Yeah. And anyway, there's a lot of hard things about fostering, mm-hmm. And you kind of expect the kids to be hard, which
Yeah.
oftentimes they are, but sometimes just there can sometimes be in foster care just a difficulty with whether it be the agency you work with or the judge or the slowness of the process or CPS or whatever it is, and that's the reality of it. Yeah, so I appreciate you saying that. Allison, let's talk about your family a little bit. So what led you all into foster care?
A few things, actually. So first off, my husband and I deal with infertility issues, and that was one thing that played into it. And about the same time that this was going on, we moved to a new home across the river, and we had a lot more room. And we decided we really would like to fill those rooms with children. But we had to, think, did we want to put ourselves through the medical and the emotional stress of what we had done before to be able to conceive Peyton. And then also at that time, a few of us here at River Ridge were doing a or a book study on Anything by Jenny Allen, and talking about surrendering our life, surrendering everything to God, and what was my anything. And I have been discussing this with my husband, and it seemed like every time we discussed it, we would see a sign, which I know they're around a lot now, but in 2017, you didn't see all the "we need foster care, we need foster parent" signs. So every time we discussed it, we literally saw a sign. So we thought, okay, this is where we need to be.
Yeah, that's neat. Can we put the picture up of Allison's family? Because it's definitely kind of a unique family with the ages and so forth. And so just talk through the ages of the children and the biological and the foster. It's just kind of a neat.
Well, we'll start with Peyton. So like I said, we had Peyton, and that was probably the one thing that might have held us back a little bit from fostering, is she was 3 at the time, and we were really concerned about protecting her and what she might see during this process or what she might be exposed to. And then you'll see Ethan. Ethan was actually our first foster placement and our first adoption. Willow and TJ are our youngest, and we adopted them in 2023. Yeah, 2023.
Yeah.
But in between those, we did have multiple kids that came and went. Some were very unique situations. I think our shortest was we had a little girl for a day, like the afternoon. You just never know what kind of stories might come across.
Yeah. So Allison, I want to explore one of those particular stories with Joshua, and kind of tell us about Joshua coming into your home, what that did in your heart, how that changed kind of your perspective on fostering.
Okay, so I would like to say we went into this with the idea of fostering, but in the back of our minds, I think we automatically would always kind of go to the adoption side of it. We had already adopted Ethan, and that was during COVID. So we were the first video Zoom adoption. And we got a call for a baby, Joshua, who is very malnourished. We took him in. A lot of people didn't even know we had him because, like I said, it was COVID, so we didn't see a whole lot of people. But he was in our home for 9 months. And that's probably when our mindset started to change towards seeing the positives of the reunification with family, because it was actually one of the better situations. Mom really had not been taught how to raise a child or how to love, and she did everything she could to better herself for Joshua. So after 9 months, he was reunited with his mama.
Yeah. And how did that change kind of your perspective on fostering?
We actually had a CPS worker that really rubbed me the wrong way, but she actually is the one that changed my mindset, because she said a lot of times, because they're so desperate for foster families, that the workers will go into it telling you whatever you want to hear. If you've dealt with infertility, hey, we need foster families, you might get a baby, which is not always the case, and it's actually very rare.
Erica gets all the babies.
Yeah, I did get a baby, I shouldn't say that. So we did get babies, as I say that, but there are a lot of older kids that need foster care. So I think are desperate and will feed off of whatever the situation is. And that's maybe when our mindset changed, where I went from thinking reunification, it was a good thing to actually see in that situation, to see Joshua reunited and what positives came from it. But also, it broke us. We did take a break after that because it probably broke my husband the most, and my kids. It was very hard. So while it was rewarding, it was also probably one of the hardest things we've done.
Yeah. You know, one of the excuse me, one of the questions that we get asked from time to time is, and because we've fostered a succession of 10 different kids, people have asked, you know, is it hard when they leave and they go back either to a forever family or to their bio family? And my honest answer is sometimes, but oftentimes not. And I realize that sounds a little bit odd, but it's just, you know, sometimes kids are hard and you're glad to see them move on. And other times it tugs at your heart because you're sending, you know, in your family, you know the knowns of your family. You know the good, the bad, and the ugly of your family, right? And certainly in our family, the good outweighs the bad and the ugly, but there's bad and ugly in our family. And then when you send a kid somewhere else, you don't know what they're going to. And we had a couple of kids about 2 years ago with us, and they the goal was reunification. They went back with their mom, and their anyway, they were there for a week, and their mom got in a fight with her boyfriend and threw a chair through his truck window, and the kids were removed again. And so they called us, and we took those two plus a brother for about a week, and it was one of those things, and we couldn't keep them for the summer. But you know, it's one of those things. Rich, you're going to have to talk in a second, but I felt the preacher moment coming on. But you know, here's the thing: is sometimes in life we would write a story a certain way, right? This is how I would write the story of my life, your life, my kids, right? And then the story doesn't go our way. And sometimes we kind of look at God and like, God, you're not writing this story the right way. And so with these two kids, they're with us. They went to their mom for, I think it was 8 days. She threw a chair through the window. Police came. They called us, brought them back to us. And they brought them to us, I believe it was on a Saturday afternoon. And so the next morning was, or the next day was Sunday, and it was our outdoor baptism Sunday down at the river. And so I'm out there baptizing people, and it was really neat. I think Jay is with me, and Betsy Schock, who's our family ministry director, she was on the microphone, and so she was, hey, this next person, and kind of share who they were, and then they go in and get baptized, and so she's on the microphone. And so Betsy gets on the microphone, and she says, she's like, hey, is there anybody else that would like to be baptized? And I'm in the water going, no, Betsy, that is off script. That is not what we're doing here. And these two kids, Xavier and Malik, who had one of them been with us for 8 months, the other just for a night, raised their hand. They're like, me. I'm like, all right, come on in. And so it was neat. I got to baptize these two kids in the Canal River, and that night I went back and we just tried to make sure they understood what they had done. And Xavier, I mean, he understood the gospel. He'd been with us. He'd been in Ridge Kids for a while, and felt very good about that. His brother Malik, I think he just wanted to go swimming, but you know that's in God's hands. I don't know. But there is, I share that with you because there's something about trusting that God's plan is in this, even when the script isn't written the way that we want it to be written, or that people do things that and every one of us could share several stories about why did they do this way, or they screwed it up and did that way. And there's a part of it that goes, these are God's kids. These aren't my kids. They aren't CPS's kids. They aren't their own parents' kids. These are God's kids. And you gotta, anyway, trusting God through that. So Rich, what led you and your family into foster and adoption?
Right at the beginning of COVID, my wife and I met through a dating app, and
Tinder?
no, Match.
Sorry.
I swiped
We need
right.
a moment of levity there.
So we had one date before the whole state was shut down, and we started going to each other's houses and cooking for each other, that kind of thing. And 2 months later, we decided to get married, and that was in March when we met. And by July, we were married. And I brought 3 adult children into the relationship, and she brought an adult son in Saxon who was in middle school, starting middle school the next year. And just first 2 years of marriage, we did a lot of traveling and kind of had an extended honeymoon, that kind of thing. And we started thinking what it would be like to have children together. And physically, we're unable to have children. So first we considered just straight adoption, looking at ways to find kids to adopt, that kind of thing. And then we saw the statistics in West Virginia about fostering and how many foster parents are needed. So we decided to go that route.
Okay. And so your situation is a little bit unique because you had a family and your wife had a family, and then together you have an adopted daughter. How has that been putting the whole thing together?
All our existing kids were very excited when they found out we were going to start fostering, and my daughter wanted to be a babysitter immediately. If you guys need a break, just let me keep the baby, you know. And they've all been real supportive, and I think they've accepted her and really taken to it.
Yeah. And when you first took Alani, you were under the impression that she was adoptable kind of immediately, right?
Yeah, the CPS worker and our other agency said, yeah, this baby's adoptable. And within a few days, we realized that they were pushing hard for unification. So we switched modes pretty quick. We kind of hoping we'd get to adopt her, but we were just, whatever was going to work out best for her was what we were working for.
Yeah. And so the state, if I remember the story correctly, they started kind of the process of reunification with the mom, but then that ended on the mom's terms. Is that correct?
Yeah, within a month of us having her, they started visits like once a week for 2 or 3 hours. We would leave her with her mother, and then we'd come back and pick her up, that kind of thing. And then it started to progress to weekend visits and all that. And the whole time the mother was in a drug rehab program trying to improve, and then she was taking some parenting classes and that kind of stuff. But it eventually fell through, and the winter of 23, 24, she had a relapse and realized she probably wasn't going to get her back, so she eventually relinquished her parental rights.
So she made that decision and recognized
Yes.
that your family.
Well,
was
she called us that morning and said, "You guys want to adopt Alani?" And we said, "Yes, we'd love to." And then she relinquished that day.
Yeah, that's neat. One of the things, and we're going to go down the row and ask each of you just to comment on this, but one of the things that we do at River Ridge is we have a ministry called Lamplighters, which is a group of people that come around, foster and adopt families just to provide extra support. And the reason this ministry exists, and this is a pretty staggering statistic, but when a family begins to foster, 50% of those families don't make it for a full year, that they give up because it's too hard, right? And it is hard. And so 50% of them give up. But when there is a care community around them, whether that would be your Bible study or a Lamplighters community that we've set up or whatever that is, at the end of the year, only 20% have quit or 80% continue, which is truly an astounding statistic that shows the value of a care community around the individuals. But I'd like to just kind of go down the line again and just, if you would share, how has it been helpful for you to have a care community around you and some specific things that maybe happen?
So my favorite thing is that we took 2 little boys that we shouldn't have taken right after we took Maggie, who cried all the time. And my friends brought us literally everything Sam's Club had, like large amounts of anything and everything. Food is always good for us because I really enjoy taking care of the kids myself, so I don't need a whole lot of help with that part. But food is always good.
Yeah, like we've had some times where it's been really hard to like with certain cases where we really weren't that free to like get food and stuff. So we had a lot of people coming in for us, and like we had a meal every Thursday, and even like not just that though, like we've had one of my brothers was acting up, and we had a family friend come in and like talk to him. So it's really amazing just to like have that community around you.
Yeah, awesome. Allison?
So I'll be honest and say if it wasn't for our church and lamplighters and our Bible study and small group, we probably wouldn't have made it through as long as we did. I mentioned that the adoption of our oldest son, Ethan, was right in the height of COVID, so we did a video Zoom. And we didn't get to, have that celebration. So all of our small group from the church and friends came and did a big parade around our neighborhood and held up huge signs, and the kids were just super excited. And that picture of my family is actually from the celebration after the adoption of my two youngest, and Lamplighters had helped with that. We had dinners on Thursdays. Also, we have a child that has a lot of behaviors, and they help out at any time or take him if we need a little bit of a break, or come over and do something with him if he needs,
Yeah.
a little bit of one-on-one.
When Alice and I were talking earlier this week about lamplighters and help, and one of the things she said I thought was so insightful. She said, talking about one of her kids, she's like, sometimes he needs a break from us, and sometimes we need a break from him. It kind of works both ways. So, Rich, how about y'all?
Yeah, I would say Lamplighters was one of the reasons we ended up in River Ridge. When we first got married, I was going to a church in Chapmanville down in Logan County, and when we married, we continued going there for a while, and then we started with the fostering, and I think Wendy happened to see something on Facebook about Lamplighters at River Ridge, and it was closer to where we live in South Charleston, so we decided to come here and give it a try, and they've really been a blessing to us. The meals or something, and the events you guys schedule sometimes just to let us come out and do something together at a date and have someone watch Alani. And then Alani's on the autistic spectrum, so she has some medical issues we have to deal with a lot, and this family and community helping us when those issues come up. We even had a pastor here at River Ridge meet us at Cincinnati Children's Hospital and helped me entertain Alani. So that was Matt.
That's fun. Yeah.
So we have a lot of support here.
That's neat. So I want to talk about how you all can get involved. So the first thing is to pray. Just to be praying for kids in our state, praying for more adoptive foster families, praying for these folks. I think we have probably 10 different families at River Ridge in some kind of progression of foster and adopt. But one of the biggest things you can absolutely do is pray. The second is, if you'd like to volunteer at the Royal Family Kids Camp, to get online, look and see what that's about, see what options there are, what works for your schedule. That would be another great way to get involved. The next is to actually become a foster or adoptive parent. So in the lobby at our little Lions and Lucy booth, Calissa is out there, Calissa Follin, who is also a adoptive mom. So she will answer any questions that you have out there. Mission West Virginia is an organization that kind of recruits foster families and then helps them to plug into agencies. So that we have some materials from them out there. But she can answer any questions that you have about foster care inside River Ridge, outside River Ridge. She'd love to help you with that. The next application would be to be a part of a Lamplighters team, to go and to sign up for that, and you just added to a team, or we maybe start a new team, and you do anything from providing meals to a family to getting stuff. I think Erica was saying that when they have a child that comes, they put out a broadcast and they get like car seats and all that kind of stuff dropped off. So just kind of the practical help side of that with Lamplighters. And then the last thing is, and this is down the road, but look at your calendar now, is on May the 7th, we as River Ridge are hosting what's called the All-In Foster Care Summit. So people from all around the state will come here for a day of learning and education and encouragement about foster care. And so we're going to provide the support team for that. So it's the kind of thing like request off from work, spend the day here, setting up tables, helping with the lunches, helping with childcare, those types of things, being a part of it. So that's going to be a big need on our part of providing that support staff. And so if you're like, I don't want to adopt the kid, I don't want to make a meal, but I could come and take a day, then do that. Because it's one of those things where no one person can solve the issue, right? But if everybody kind of pitches in and does a little bit here and a little bit there, I think that's part of God's solution for this whole deal, this whole thing, this crisis that we're facing at River Ridge. So thank you for being a part of this. Thanks to y'all. Can we give them a hand? They did a great job. So let me pray for us. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for today, Lord. Thank you for these families here who are fostering and then adopting, and God, for the others in our church. God, I pray that you would raise up more families, more individuals, more couples who would say, yes, I'm in. I can be a part of this. I can do what God wants some of the church to do in caring for the widows and the orphans and the down and out and those who are in need and the children. God, I pray that you would raise folks up to be a part of that. God, we thank you for your love. And Lord, I also pray for all of the kids that are represented on this stage and all the kids of other families that have come through and either stayed or moved on from folks in this church. God, there's probably 50 or 80 of those types of kids. And I lift up each and every one of them, that you would hold them close, that you would put them in a forever family that would love them and care for them and point the way to you. God, thank you for this burden that you put on us. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, thank you for being here. And if you have questions out in the lobby, or I'm sure these folks would love to stay around and answer questions as well. Thanks for being here.